Hey everyone, Andy here with Mossy Creek Fly Fishing. Today is Monday, May 12th, and I'm bringing you the fishing forecast for this week. Looks like we're finally going to get some much needed rain. However, it looks like it could be enough to mess up our fishing a little bit this week, so we'll talk more about that. But looks like starting this evening, Monday night, into Wednesday, they're calling for pretty significant rainfall, anything from maybe 2 to 4 inches of rain. That's good. We need some rain, but in the short term, we might have some high muddy water. So we'll talk about things we can do to still get out fishing and maybe places to avoid and places to look at. So we'll start by talking about some of our mountain streams. According to the forecasts, an area that might get more rain than others is going to be the east slope of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So that means streams on the east side of Shenandoah National Park might get some pretty heavy rainfall. So it's going to be worth watching flows over there. But at the moment, those streams are pretty low and they're pretty clear. So a good bump of rain will mostly be beneficial. Now, we'll update y'all as we get reports and put eyes on water and see what things are actually looking like. But what I would tell you is if you do plan on getting out, if you're going to go try after the rain, expect water that's going to be moving pretty good, maybe have a little bit of color to it. Your mountain streams, rarely would they ever get truly muddy, but they can definitely get high. They can definitely have a lot of leaf litter and things like that moving through them. So when we get water like that, we're going to need to size up our flies, fish heavier flies, fish things that have a bigger profile that stand out. So that means even in your mountain brookie waters, maybe pulling out your size 10 or even 8 streamers, or pulling out your big nymphs like your jiggy pats, tungsten beads on those to help them get them down, rubber legs that stand out, big profiles, the fish can see them. And in high water events, you can catch some of your nicer brook trout up in the mountains just like you could on the spring creeks. So if they are safe to fish, I would still say go for it. Just don't expect maybe phenomenal dry fly fishing. We'll go back to some of our big nymphs and streamers and fish your slower water spots to the best of your ability. So that means the side eddies, right on the edges of current where you get those slow pockets. The one nice thing about high water is it can push fish into very centralized locations. So if you find a good pool that's got an area of slower water where the fish can take refuge, you can sometimes catch quite a few in a row out of that same spot. That's going to be largely true for all of our brookie streams. So Dry River, East Slope, Shenandoah National Park, West Slope, probably all of them are going to be up and have elevated flows. So most of what I just said should be true for all those mountain streams. But again, we'll update you as the rain falls, and what we actually end up getting could be different. So we'll try to keep everybody updated on that. Now, coming down, looking at the spring creeks, yes, it takes a lot of rain for a creek like Mossy to flood, but I'm sure it's going to remain fishable. But again, it's probably going to be elevated. We might have some very dirty water. So I would say if you're heading out to Mossy, anticipate a lot of the same stuff I said for your mountain streams being true. Break out your big flies. Don't be afraid to go out there and throw a big streamer. Look for some of those big fish. That high off-color water can be some of your best days on Mossy. So definitely worth doing. Tuesday might be a little bit miserable to be out in, but if you're somebody who wants to put your rain gear to use, you can suit up and get out there and throw some big streamers in heavy rainfall throughout the day and see if you can find a big fish. Generally speaking on Mossy, the higher you go in the public section, the less the water is going to be colored up. So some days you might be fishing at the lower access and the water is pretty darn muddy. By the time you get up towards the upper section of the public water, you might still have clear water. So if you do get out there and you're looking at some of the lower areas and you're thinking, man, this water just looks really dirty, it's going to be tough to fish, it might be worth walking a little bit and working your way up, get closer to some of those spring heads and see if you can find some clearer water if you choose you want to fish that. So the spring creeks would be a place that if you have plans to fish, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they might be a good option for you to keep in mind. Those are likely going to have the best buffer with the heavy rainfall coming in. Another option would be some of your tailwaters. Now, with that being said, you do want to watch releases. A lot of the times if we have tremendous amounts of rain in the headwaters and the lake is filling up with water, they are going to start releasing heavier water down below the dam as well. So even though you have that dam control to buffer things, there might still be some pretty heavy flows. So either call us or check some of those release schedules online before you make any plans to hit those. But hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have stuff starting to settle back down and get into, really prime conditions for the upcoming weekend. We'll have a good shot of rain. The fish will be happy and able to move around. We have tremendous numbers of bugs out right now. So as soon as that water level gets back down to that, average or above average flow, you're going to have some really great fishing to take advantage of on the trout streams. Now on the smallmouth side of things, we're going to have probably some blown out rivers for a little bit longer, bigger river, bigger drainage. All those trout streams are all dumping into our big smallmouth rivers, so it's a lot of water. It takes a longer time for it to fall. We've had a great spawn over the last couple of weeks, and most of our fry have started to move around and spread out. So hopefully we don't get the rain all in one quick shot. Hopefully the river rises slowly and the fry are able to take advantage of some of the hiding spots and do okay throughout the high water. But the fishing up to now has been pretty good. We've been catching a lot of fish out in your riffle water and moving off of those spawn areas and starting to spread out in the river a little bit. But again, that water is probably going to be a little too high to get out and fish for at least the first half of the week, but maybe even through the weekend. So that'll be something to keep your eyes on flows for. But similar to what I mentioned on the trout stuff, if you're into musky fishing, as that water starts to recede just a little bit and get into a little bit more of a fishable level, you can get out and hit the banks. That high water is going to push those fish to those slow eddies, just like it will the mountain brook trout. And so you can, again, sometimes have this big river where now your fish are pushed into a smaller area. And if you got a high concentration of fish in a small area, generally you're going to be able to have a little bit higher likelihood of success. So don't think of the high water as unfishable. You just need to focus in on those small little pockets where the fish can take refuge and they've still got to eat. So as soon as that water gets back down to a decent level, definitely going to be worth getting back out. And then our smallmouth fishing will be really starting to get into the summertime groove of things once we get back down to probably average flow, and we'll look forward to a good summer of smallmouth fishing following this rain. So lots of good stuff to look forward to. The water, while it might put a damper on your early part of your week, is going to be good for us in the long run. So we'll update y'all as we see the actual conditions on the streams. We'll be trying to update social media with pictures and videos of what the creeks and rivers are looking like. And if you have questions, you can always call us. We can check gauges online and give you our best opinion on how fishable or not fishable a stream might be. So feel free to call us. We're happy to chat. We hope to see you all in the shop, and we hope everybody's having a great spring and getting out fishing plenty. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next week.